Admiral Zixathara of the Hegemony Third Fleet had seen many species kneel before the might of the Galactic Coalition. The reptilian saurians with their thermal weaponry, the crystalline Vorthak with their energy shields, the gaseous nebulans with their atmospheric warfare capabilities. All had eventually submitted to the Coalition's overwhelming technological superiority and joined their ranks, willingly or otherwise. But the humans were different. Irritatingly different. Status report, Zixathara commanded from the bridge of the dreadnought Stellar Dominion, her 4 eyes scanning the tactical display showing Earth's solar system. The human vessels maintain their defensive positions around their third planet, reported Commander Veltos, his mandibles clicking nervously. Approximately 200 ships of various classifications, primitive fusion drives, kinetic weaponry, basic energy shields, nothing that poses a threat to our fleet. Zixathara's tail swished with satisfaction. 3,000 Coalition warships versus humanity's meager defense force. The outcome was predetermined, just like every other first contact scenario over the past millennium. The humans would see the futility of resistance, submit to Coalition authority, and their planet would become another resource world in the ever-expanding empire. "Open a channel to the human command vessel," she ordered. The main screen flickered to life, revealing a graying human male in a simple blue uniform. Admiral Chen Wei of the United Earth Defense Force looked remarkably calm for someone facing overwhelming odds. "I am Admiral Zixathara of the Galactic Coalition," she began, her voice carrying the weight of absolute authority. "Your species has been selected for integration into our empire. Surrender your vessels and prepare for occupation. Compliance will ensure minimal casualties." Admiral Chen smiled, an unsettling expression that Zixathara had learned to associate with human unpredictability. "Admiral Zixathara, thank you for the formal introduction. I'm afraid we must respectfully decline your generous offer." "You misunderstand." Zixathara's voice hardened. "This was not a request. Our fleet outnumbers yours 15-1. Your technology is centuries behind ours. Resistance is futile." "Perhaps," Chen replied, his smile widening. "But humanity has a saying: never judge a book by its cover. Computer, execute protocol revelation." Across the solar system, space itself seemed to shimmer. Zixathara watched in growing confusion as her sensors began detecting massive energy signatures appearing throughout the system. At first, she assumed it was some form of sensor malfunction, but as the distortion stabilized, her blood ran cold. Ships, massive ships, hundreds of them, materializing from what appeared to be absolutely nothing. "Stealth technology," whispered Commander Veltos, his voice barely audible. "But the energy requirements, how did they hide vessels of that magnitude?" The human fleet had just increased from 200 vessels to over 4,000. But these weren't the primitive ships they had initially detected. These vessels were sleek, predatory things that seemed to bend light around their hulls, weapon arrays that hummed with barely contained energy, shield generators that warped space-time itself. "Impossible," Zixathara breathed. "Our intelligence reports showed humanity had barely achieved interplanetary travel 50 years ago." Admiral Chen's expression had shifted from friendly to coldly professional. "What your intelligence report showed you, Admiral, was exactly what we wanted you to see. Did you really think a species paranoid enough to assume alien contact would be hostile wouldn't prepare accordingly?" The tactical display lit up with warnings as targeting locks from the human fleet painted every Coalition vessel, energy readings that made Zixathara's most advanced dreadnoughts look like children's toys. "You see, Admiral," Chen continued, "humanity learned a valuable lesson from our own history. When a technologically superior force encounters a primitive, the primitive civilization usually doesn't survive the encounter, so we decided not to be the primitive civilization." "The asteroid mining operations," Veltos whispered in horrified realization. "The deep space research stations. They weren't mining and research, they were shipyards." Chen nodded approvingly. "Very good, Commander. Yes, for the past 40 years, humanity has been preparing for this exact scenario. Every mining operation beyond Neptune was actually a military production facility. Every research station was a hidden fleet base. Every primitive patrol ship you've been watching was just the tip of the iceberg. Zixthara's mind raced. The implications were staggering. An entire hidden military-industrial complex, operating for decades right under the Coalition's surveillance. The level of coordination, secrecy, and technological advancement required was beyond anything they had encountered. The question now, Admiral Zixthara, Chen continued, is whether you'd like to reconsider your position. Our offer is simple. Withdraw from Sol system immediately, and we'll pretend this unfortunate misunderstanding never happened. Continue with your planned invasion, and we'll demonstrate why humanity survived its own violent history long enough to reach the stars. As if to emphasize the point, the nearest human vessel, a sleek destroyer that hadn't been there moments before, fired. A single shot past the Coalition flagship. The energy beam carved through space and struck a dead moon, instantly vaporizing a crater 50 kilometers wide. Warning shot, Chen noted casually. The next one won't miss. Across the Coalition fleet, communications channels erupted with panicked chatter. Ship commanders demanding orders. Sensor operators reporting impossible readings. Weapons officers discovering that their targeting systems couldn't achieve a solid lock on the shifting, phasing human vessels. Zixthara found herself in a position she had never experienced, outgunned, outmaneuvered, and completely outclassed by a species the Coalition had dismissed as primitives. How? She asked, her voice barely a whisper. Chen's expression softened slightly. Because, Admiral, when humanity looks at the galaxy, we don't see a peaceful community waiting to welcome us. We see the same thing our ancestors saw when they looked across dark oceans and dense forests, potential threats that we need to be prepared for. We've been planning for alien contact since we first looked up at the stars and wondered if we were alone. He paused, letting that sink in. The answer, by the way, is that we're not alone, but we're also not helpless. The Coalition fleet hung. In space, 3,000 ships suddenly made impotent by the revelation that their prey had become their predator. Across subspace communication networks, the news spread like wildfire. Humanity had teeth, sharp ones. Admiral, Chen said formally, you have 30 minutes to begin your withdrawal from Sol system. I suggest you use that time wisely. The transmission ended, leaving Zixthara staring at a tactical display that had transformed from a routine conquest into a potential massacre, with her fleet as the victims. For the first time in Coalition history, it was the invaders who sent the surrender signal. And across the galaxy, as word spread of humanity's hidden strength, the stars themselves seemed to grow a little quieter, a little more cautious. Because, now they knew, humanity wasn't just another primitive species to be conquered. They were something far more dangerous. They were prepared.